Yeah. And do you think, because in Japan, they once they get into something and through, I don't know whether it's through history, like I'm thinking of some of the whiskies that they do, some of the spirits that the Japanese do, they're very expensive, very high end. Do you think there's a space in the market for craft beer because they tend to like that kind of authenticity? Do you know what I mean? Instead of just over here, it's like 20 pints of Carling. Over there, I think they actually enjoy the beer. Would you agree with that?
There is absolutely the 20 pints of Carling culture over here
Is
as
that?
well. Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Oh, okay, fair enough.
So, yeah, you can go to like some cheap student pub and get, a big thing of crappy draft beer for a couple of quid, and that's absolutely a thing that exists here. But because Japan is such a large and populous country, and like Tokyo is such a big city, there's space in the market for all kinds of things. There's space in the market for your super high-end whiskey bars, your Yamazakis and your Hakushus, and they're selling a glass of whiskey for 50 quid. And there's space somewhere in the middle for us. And we kind of see ourselves as a community kind of place here. We serve beer that's a little bit better than the cheapest crap you can get.
Yeah.
Not quite on the 50 quid a glass level.
Yeah, you wish.
But I think, like, the town where we are, Tachikara, is a fairly blue-collar town, to use an Americanism. So probably the customers who come to us, they're almost all Japanese people, local Japanese people. And because craft beer isn't such a thing here yet, they tend to be a bit price-conscious as well. And that's something that we do need to be aware of.
Yeah, because that's the thing. I mean, over here, Brewdog, for instance, you get 4 little cans. The cost is ridiculous. But because now they've established themselves, people will pay it. And I think once people enjoy a drink, realise the hard work that's gone into it, I think that's when they'll pay more of a premium, won't they?
Absolutely. And I think craft beer has established itself in the UK to the point where, like, you can go into Tesco's and buy a 4-pack of Brewdog, can't you? Or just any supermarket is going to have a big craft beer selection.
Yeah.
That is not true in Japan yet. There might be 1 or 2 kind of imported beers, like the non-Japanese macro lagers on the supermarket shelf.
Yeah.
But for the most part, you're not going to find anything fancy in the supermarket. So there's a long way to go yet before we get to market saturation.
Yeah. There's something about over here. We've got a pub, and it's a brewery, and they're brewing everything actually in there, so you can see the casks, tankers, whatever you call it, while they're behind. I noticed the board behind you. They have numbered boards and they have different flavoured beers and stuff like that. Do you brew a lot of your own lagers or all of them? How does that work?
So at the moment, we're what's called a phantom brewery. In that we don't have our own brewing equipment, but we do make our own beer. And what we do is we will go to other breweries, usually our friends, people we know, and I will go there, I'll make the recipe, and I'll make that beer on their system, and then we buy that beer from them. So it's our beer, but it's made using a different brewery system. So maybe you can see the 1, 2, and 3 on our tap boards at the moment. Those are all our own beers. Those are beers that we've made.
Yeah.
We only have 8 taps at the moment, and maybe 3 to 4 of them are usually our own beers. Right. And the plan is at some point this year to get our own brewing system in this space where we are. Yeah. And then just like you said, we're going to have like a window so people can look through and they can see the fermentation happening. They can see me sweating over a big bag of malt as they're enjoying their nice, cool pint of lager.
Yeah.
That's how you know it's premium, right? You've got to see the guy sweating and bleeding.
It's true. We went to a gin bar the other week, and they've got a glass and where they distill the gin, and you can see it all happening, and it's amazing. But I tell you what, it's not cheap. But the experience, and you're almost like you don't mind paying that premium because they have, it hasn't just come on a trolley from somewhere. They've put the hard work in.
You can see where the money's going. You can see it.
Yeah.
I used to, when I was working at Baird's, they had 3 different brewing systems there. The smallest one was a 250-litre brewing system, which is quite small as brewing systems go. But the thing about that one was that it was entirely manual. There was no automation at all. So you want to put some malt into the thing, you got to pick the bucket up and you got to tip it in. You want to mix it up, you have to get like a big garden fork and like mix it all around. And so I'd be leaning over this thing. It's so hot in there because you've got all this hot water and you've got dust all over you, and there's sweat pouring off me and dripping into the thing. And you go, okay, yeah, this is the labor that goes into making this product. We're not sitting in a climate controlled control room, like clicking buttons on a computer.
Yeah.
You're actually bending over this tank and putting your own sweat into the beer. Almost quite literally.
You say, is it quite a science then to get a certain beer a certain way? Is that something, because you said earlier you'd learned that, so you knew quite a bit about ingredients and things like that. Tell us about that. Is it quite specific?
Yeah, it's both an art and a science, I think. So when you make a new beer recipe, you're making it in your head. And so there's a bit of science that goes into that. You can say, okay, I want it to have this much alcohol at the end, or I want it to have this much bitterness at the end. And so I can figure out from these ingredients, I can kind of predict how they're going to behave. And I can use a little bit of maths and like a spreadsheet to figure out, okay, well, how much malt do I need to put in? How much hops do I need to put in to achieve that thing that I want? But almost every single time, the beer that comes out at the end isn't quite 100% exactly like the beer that you thought you were going to make in the first place. And so the brewing process, because it's so manual, is very complicated. And there are so many tiny little factors that can have an impact on that final thing, that it's almost like, I don't know, painting a picture or conducting a symphony, right? Yeah. You have to look at it in an artistic way rather than a scientific way sometimes.
Yeah. So is it almost striving for perfection then? I suppose if you think, right, I want to make this beer taste like this and it doesn't, the next time you do it, it's like, I'm going to tweak this, I'm going to tweak that.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you also have to take really careful notes as you're brewing. Say, okay, exactly what temperature was it at this point? Or how much water did I put in at this point? Exactly how many grams of this did I put in? And then if it's different for some reason, you can look at your notes and you can try and figure out why it was different. Because it's also like, you don't make the beer and then taste it on the same day. You're going to have at least a month before you can taste that final product.
A month.
Well, a month of also managing the process, right? Because as it's fermenting and as you're moving it around and packaging it, you're affecting the final product. And so the careful notes are really important all the way through. And then figuring out why it's different at the end, that's a whole other science right there.
Yeah. Have you been doing delivery service then while COVID's been, to just keep you going? Is that what you've been doing?
So right now, we're in kind of a weird lockdown in Tokyo where we're not allowed to serve alcohol to customers to drink in, which is why most of the tap boards are blank, because the taps are not hooked up right now. So we can sell cans and bottles of beer from here. We have a couple of fridges for people to get cans and bottles to go. But there is so much regulation about selling alcohol in Japan. And I know it's true in the UK as well, but it's mostly about, the hours that you're allowed to operate and so on. Here, we're allowed to operate whatever hours we want usually. But to serve beer and then to sell packaged beer, those are two completely different licenses and two completely different regulatory bodies as well. Yeah. One is the tax office, one's the health office. And then to deliver beer, that would be an entirely new license and a different regulatory body. So we don't currently do that. Sorry, that's a long answer to your short question.
No. I mean, yeah, it's not making it easy for you when times are hard like this, is it really? Bringing in all them different regulations. It's quite frustrating, isn't it, when you just want to... I mean, they can't come in. Okay, that's terrible. They can't come in. We know that. But then at least look at what can we do? Like, for instance, out here, we had a lot of outdoor drinking. You had to have a seat. We ordered on an app. But we did sort of turn it around and get it working. So at least when pubs could open, they were making something. Because
and the government was flexible. They understood it was a difficult situation. Yeah, they made it work, right?
Yeah, people like you, if you don't get that going somewhere along the line, you can't continue. It's ridiculous, isn't it?
You didn't have to order by sending a fax to somebody. No, that would be the Japanese solution. So earlier in the year, we only got the takeout license in April, And earlier in the year, there was another lockdown where we had to stop serving draft beer. And at the time, we were trying to apply for the takeout license, but the tax office was giving us a runaround. And I called them up and I said, well, look, if you don't give us this license, we're just going to have to close. That's our only option. And the lady on the phone said, yeah, that's right. I'm glad you understand the situation.
Cheers.
Okay.
Do you drink beer, ma'am?
You do realize if we close, we're not going to be paying you any taxes, right? We're not going to be making any money, so you're going to receive nothing from us.
That's
It's
sad, isn't
really
it?
bizarre.
Yeah. So you've never had people coming in yet, then?
Oh no! So we opened in March last year, and actually, I was making a timeline recently to try and apply for some government assistance money.
Yeah.
Like, when have we been open? When have we been closed? And I think we've been open for drinking custom about 65-70% of the time since March last year. We've only really been able to open as late as we want for about a month and a half out of the last 17 months.
Yeah.
The way the government is approaching this is they're saying, okay, well, you have to close at 8. You have to call last orders at 7. You have to close at 8.
Yeah.
Because everyone knows coronavirus only comes out after dark, right? I think their thinking is like, if people get drunk, then they'll take their masks off and they'll start talking loudly and they'll start sharing beers and so on. And that's not good.
Which I can understand that, but if people want to get drunk, they'll just go out earlier.
Yeah, turns out that's exactly what they'll do. Yeah.
So what was it like when you first started opening, people were coming in? What sort of customers did you get? Did you get people you thought, oh, these are regulars, or was there a lot of people coming in, looking like, I'll try this, and then being quite happy about it?
Yeah, I think we've had a bit of both, actually. Yeah. So there wasn't really a strong craft beer scene in Tachikawa before we opened. There really isn't very much else around here doing the kind of similar thing to what we're doing. So we would get some craft beer fans who are in the area who were glad that somewhere like us had opened. We also have an American air base not far up the street from us. Nice. And so a lot of the guys and gals who work there, they can't really get craft beer like they used to in the US. And so they're quite happy that there's a place that speaks English and where they can buy craft beer that's opened up. But the majority of our customers are just local people here in Tachikawa. And so when we were first doing the construction, like the whole front of the building was open. And people who were walking past would look in and see 2 white guys building furniture and plastering a wall. And they're like, what is going on in here? This is rather bizarre. That's not the kind of job we usually see those guys doing. Yeah. And so I think we got quite a lot of local attention because of that. And so, yeah, most of our customers are just people who live locally here in Tachikawa and enjoy having nice beer to drink.
Because I remember when I first had a craft beer, I think it was something like an IPA, an East Coast IPA or something like that. I've always been a lager drinker. And you're like, oh, that's nice. And it's quite all of a sudden you think, yeah, lager. But now I think I'm in that place where I'd much rather have a nice ale or like I say, an IPA that I can enjoy and actually enjoy the lager. Whereas when I was younger, and maybe it's because I'm getting old, when I was younger, it was like, right, as many pints as you can, Carl Foster's, all that crap. Now it's like, oh, actually, I'm more sophisticated now. I want to enjoy it. Yeah. Is that what it is? I think. Yeah.
I'm not an alcoholic. I'm a craft beer enthusiast. I'm old enough to remember when my student union did pints of Stella for 99p. Right?
Yeah, it's like...
Those were the days.
Yeah, yeah. So what was it? When did you sort of get onto craft beer? Was it when you were over there, or did you already sort of have an idea about it when you... Well, no, because it was 15 years, so it would have happened while you were in Japan, wouldn't it? The craze.
Yes, but I think that sort of nice beer, I don't know, however you want to describe it, like cask ale has always been a thing in the UK. Yeah. And it's maybe something we've forgotten about, but I do remember, even as a younger man, like sometimes having like a hand-pulled pint in a local pub of something that wasn't like Carling or Tennant's or whatever, thinking, this is quite nice. I enjoyed it. It tastes good. It's different. So when I was about 9, I think, my family moved to Scotland, and we ended up living right out in the countryside in Aberdeenshire.
Yeah.
And so my dad was deprived of all the nice English ales that he had been enjoying up until then.
Yeah.
But our local pub at one point did start doing cask ale.
Right.
And I have quite a strong memory of him buying like some kind of plastic flagon that he could take down to the pub because he needed to support this local initiative. And once you open that cask, you've got to drink it all really quickly, otherwise it's going to go off. And so I was trying to explain to my mum, like, no, I have to go down 3 nights a week and fill this up with beer and then drink it all. Otherwise, then they're going to stop selling it. There aren't enough people around here.
Yeah.
So I knew that beer that wasn't just lager was a thing. But no, craft beer, there was kind of a takeoff of craft beer while I was here. And then I was kind of into it, and then I got really into it once I started working in a brewery, and I had access to a lot of it.
I bet the smell's incredible, ain't it, when you can smell it, like the hops and everything?
Yeah, it's great. I love the smell of a brewery, actually. There's kind of a mix of the malt and the hops and the fermentation and the cleaning chemicals and everything together. It's a very distinctive smell. And whenever I get to go to a working brewery, I get quite excited just by smelling that very distinctive melange, I think.
Yeah. And the thing is as well, and I think after we come out of lockdown and COVID and all that kind of thing, people will want more of an experience. I've said this about filmmaking is because people are saying, what's going to happen with cinema? And people will still go the cinema, but they want to get their money's worth. They want to have an experience. And I think that's where the businesses that don't give you experience will suffer. And I think that's what's great, what you're doing. And these people that do like that gym bar, you'll pay if you can have an experience. That's what people are after now, isn't it? Because if it's just for Carling, they'll go the off license or they'll order stuff online. They want to have an experience.
How is that going to work for movies, do you think? Is it going to be more popular to have 3D movies or?
I think, I think when you go to the cinema, it'll be more of an event. So like the Christopher Nolan movies, the James Bond movies, I think the smaller movies there's going to be a lot more coming on Netflix and things like that. So, and there's swings and roundabouts for that. For someone like me that makes, a low budget film, I've got more chance of getting it out into the world than it ever going onto the cinema screen. So I think that's where it's going to change. You won't go and pay £10 to go and watch some crappy horror that you don't know anyone. Do you see what I mean? I think it'll change like that.
Right. So it's it's stratified that you're either going to pay a lot of money for the experience or you're just going to get the cheap ones, the low budget movies on your streaming service. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I think so. Because internet